Hello, secondary teachers. Welcome to today's National Day of Climate and Nature CPD. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm Meryl Batchelder up in the northeast of England, and this is Paul Turner.
Hello, I'm a geography specialist based down on the South Coast, and Meryl is crazy about science.
I am crazy about science, but science, we talk about a lot about sustainability and that it belongs in science and geography, but it doesn't necessarily. We need it to be bigger than that. We need it to be thought about across the school community and across the curriculum.
Yeah, we've got some great stories for me activators who are like Sarah, an English teacher. We've got people interested in art. We've got people doing it through music. So there's a real opportunity. So what we've got is about 10, 15 minutes of what we're hoping going to be really direct, simple training for you to be able to inspire you to take some next steps. What we also wanted to do was just mention that at the end of last academic year, we hosted a great teacher celebration event, which really highlighted the wealth of knowledge, experience, people in the climate and nature education space. And we just wanted to emphasize how rich a tapestry that is. And I know, Meryl, you're really well connected with lots of the people and organizations happening as well.
Okay, are we ready to go?
We are. Let's go. So we wanted to start with the why. And the first why is from a moral imperative. We're all human beings. We all live on planet Earth. We're all part of society. What's going on in terms of the climate and nature crisis, Mel?
Okay, so we have got some serious issues, and these issues are going to impact young people more even than they're impacting people of my age. So we have an image here, and it shows the two sets of stripes. The top set of stripes, the blue to the red, are called the warming stripes. And Ed Hawkins from Reading University created these as a visual way to really, show the impact of what's happening with our climate. The blue stripe on the far left is around about 1970. The red stripe on the far right is it's about 50 years later. So approximately over my lifespan, this. And you can see it's gone from blue to, slightly into pinks and now into deep reds. The planet has warmed about 1.5 degrees already. 2024 was the warmest year on record. 2025 summer looks like it's probably the hottest in the UK. You can see that you can feel the change in our classrooms as they get hotter and hotter. So young people who are entering year one now or early years now are being born in this really deep red zone. And now it's just going to get warmer until we stop burning fossil fuels, until we change our agricultural practice. It's going to get hotter. So young people need to be prepared for how to manage that heat and understand how we can help, how we can be part of the change. The bottom set of stripes are called the biodiversity stripes, set up by Miles Richardson, again from about 1970 to the present day. And when I was born, it was a lush green and pleasant land, shall we say. And over the years, farming impacts, climate, pesticide use has meant our biodiversity has declined. And it's seriously declined. The latest data is really quite shocking. So again, young people born today are seeing a much greyer planet than they would have done 50 years ago. And I think these stripes just help us visualize how serious it is and what that trend is like.
Yeah, and we've got some warming stripes that we take to schools, and we've seen really great ways of using these in the classroom. And I really like that illustration as well over the top of it. It helps to
I know,
to
it's like makes
communicate
it.
it to the younger audience, doesn't it? Yeah. So just in terms of people, if they wanted to d dive deeper into this, we've got Meryl's made these with Docu B series, which explores things like the state of the climate report, state of nature report, and these are again quick snapshots to go even deeper into some of those numbers to understand what is happening to our planet now. The climate that you grew up in doesn't exist anymore.
And it's really, the science is really complicated. And so, the scientists have been talking about this for many years, but the science is complicated. And when you actually look at the data, so all I try and do is make it a little bit more simple to understand the big numbers, what they mean, and, what we can do to take action in schools.
And then, as Meryl referenced as well, we increasingly are getting these headlines. The Met Office just recently said that the summer is likely to be the warmest on record. That's one of a handful of kind of headlines from the Met Office that have come out over the summer. We've experienced that, we've felt it. It might be the conversations you have with people is, oh, how great the summer was, but it's completely out of the norm, or it is our new norm in the sense that it's getting warmer and warmer, and that's something that we're all living with and experiencing, and we do understand.
Indeed.
And
So,
then.
yeah. So, people don't talk about it very much. And actually, when you do ask people, do you care? Do you want to take action? internationally, the level is 80% of people want to take action, they want their governments to take action on climate to make the situation better. In the UK, it's over 86% of people. So whatever you see in the press that, oh, it's a no-no and the green transition isn't going to be affordable and all the rest of it, 86% in the UK want action on climate. So, I think we're part of education is vital to make sure, not only our students in our classrooms are aware of that everybody wants to take action, but also in our communities, in our wider school community, that
Mm.
we really, that, and this was taken from the People's Climate Vote 2024, the world's biggest climate survey. So, these are facts from the United Nations.
Yeah, and I think it's that sense of you might think that you're an outlier if you're taking action, but actually this is a really common attitude. There is the Climate Majority Project, which is also communicating this sense that actually we do all agree this is the common attitude, but it's because we don't talk about it, we're not open about these sorts of things that.
And it's driving decision making. So 69% say that climate is impacting big decisions in their lives, whether to not to have children. If you think that the planet is, not changing fast enough to keep up with, this human induced climate change, actually that is a huge decision. And even in my lifestyle, I'm not flying anymore, and I try and grow fruit and vegetables on my little, in my garden, to try and do my part, so all decisions in the long term will be climate induced decisions or
What we're
climate
saying
related.
is, if you as a teacher are not engaging with this, it's a big chunk of people's thinking and part of their lives. If you in your teaching are not engaging with this, that's a big part that you're missing out on. And so it's important to sort of weave this throughout. The next why might be, and we think of it as more of a secondary one, we think the moral is the bit at the beginning, and then it's, well, okay, what's expected of us professionally? And so increasingly there is more and more expected from the Department for Education. Meryl, there's three key initiatives, isn't there,
There's
that the
three key
government is
initiatives that
funding?
the Department of Education, so they have a climate and sustainability strategy. It is being reviewed, and we know the curriculum's also being reviewed, but the main three strands that can provide help. Climate ambassadors can come into your school. If you sign up with STEM Learning, there's the Climate Ambassador Hub, and local people from business or charities, from other educators can come into your school to help. There is the Sustainability Support Hub, which provides resources. I prefer ours, but hey, I'm biased. And then there are the
Education Nature Park,
education,
led by
yes,
Natural
national
History
education,
Museum and the RHS. Yeah,
national
those are the three.
education nature
And
park.
then there are, other kind of periphery, other things in the
Yeah,
space
Let's
as
Go
well,
Zero is a huge
with
one,
particularly
helping.
climate action plans as an emphasis for people to have this pathway to net zero. But I think what we would say is that curriculum really is the core of what we think. It's the fundamental of what a school's doing. It's the day to day. It's the thing that every young person experiences whilst at the school. And so we really wanted to emphasize this sense that there is like a jigsaw. We've put together this diagram that helps kind of bring it to life. That it's all kind of interlinked, it's all complementary, and there's this wealth of organizations who are often providing free support. And it's the sort of thing that I know teachers struggle in terms of having the capacity, so many different priorities, but there really is no excuse not to accept this sort of support and help. There are people out there
Well,
with yeah.
the government's strategy says that all schools should have a sustainability lead by the end of 2025. So this term, effectively, if you haven't got one already, your school is expected to have one. And as the curriculum changes, as the DfE address some of these gaps in the curriculum, it's likely that role is going to be really quite important to help teachers across the school take sustainability and put it into the ethos of the school. That should be driven down by senior leadership as well.
Yeah, it's about having a kind of a whole school strategy approach and for it to be a shared responsibility as well. Because I'm sure people watching this might be they think of themselves as the kind of one person in the school who's got that responsibility, but actually it's something that every teacher should be considering.
And even up to governors, local authorities. There's a bigger picture,
Yeah.
being drawn out, and the landscape is changing. But definitely changes is happening now.
And I think the other thing that this diagram illustrates is that sense that we think of sustainability in its broadest sense, that yes, carbon and climate action plans is part of that, but equally the curriculum. And then also to be truly sustainable, you need to engage with the local community. And you might be doing that, but not considering it as part of sustainability. It could be through a wildlife trust, school, visits. It could be inviting in the local community. But the other piece as well is that forest schools and outdoor learning. There's been this growth over the last few years in interest around forest schools, but also weaving that throughout the rest of the curriculum and understanding that it should be part of everything.
There's a huge network of people providing support into schools to try and, green your school, in terms of your school grounds, in terms of purchasing, in terms of the curriculum. Loads and loads of support. And one of the things we do as the Ministry of Eco Education is try and rationalise that and make it more simple.
Yeah, so what we've done as a group of teachers with kind of different interests and specialisms and age groups and all those sorts of things is share our experience and bring it together by finding all of the different free resources and opportunities from hundreds of organizations. And rather than just being a website that is a sort of database of those and sort of allows you to go and explore them yourself, we've tried to add value by weaving them together into series of what we call learning journeys framed by big questions. And we use 7 key themes to help try and give a bit of a structure to what can be a quite a vague statement around sustainability. What do we really mean by sustainability? So we've got these 7 key themes. And actually, Meryl, there's a bit of a hierarchy to them, isn't there?
There is. So the 7 themes are energy, food, nature, society, transport, waste, and water. Now, the ones that impact, the main areas of those that impact our climate the most severely are energy, where we get our energy from, our food, how we make our food and grow our food, and also transport, how we get around. Actually, if you look at your climate action plan for school, a lot of those impacts will be down to transport, how people are travelling around to get to school and also on school trips. And so if we tackle those three, that's great. But it's bigger than that. We know that, water, waste, nature and society have huge implications for not only our own well-being but also our role in society, and our impact on society, our impact on our environment. So there is a little bit of a hierarchy, but they're all, those 7 themes, is the thing that pulled me into the Ministry of Eco Education right at the very start. Was one of the questions was, what does it take to make a cup of tea? And actually, it's hugely complicated when you start to break it down. A great question to ask young people, and one that actually in the energy section, because of transport and because of international trade and things, but it impacts on all of them.
So the Ministry of Eco-Education framework, informed by the Green Britain Group, by Dale Vince, lots of the businesses who are making a Green Britain right now. So that's kind of informing that structure and helping us to kind of create that. But the key thing then is there's a website with loads of learning journeys framed by big questions, so series of lessons. They're designed to be flexible, inspiration for you to be able to take a few activities, to take a whole question, a whole series of lessons. It's up to you, but it's there to get you thinking more and reflecting on your teaching.
Absolutely, and it's hugely flexible, so you can just dip in and out. You don't need to do a whole series. The series of big questions all have about 8 different lessons below them, but you can just pick and choose. And we link out to resources that are incredible. We haven't created all of the individual resources. We link out to the wildlife trusts or the RSPB or organisations who really know their field. And so we've built lessons, a whole program, as a scheme of work around some fantastic resources for you to use in your classrooms.
Step one, Meryl.
Step one is think about or plot what you've got across your curriculum already. Now, that is a huge job. There will be teachers in school who are already talking about sustainability, about energy, nature, transport, food, and there'll be lots of information that students are receiving, but it's not necessarily joined up. So it's map out what's going on in sustainability in your school. It is a big job. So shared document, get each teacher to go in, what are they doing in year 7, what are they doing in year 8, what are they doing in year 9, and linking it through.
Yeah, this is a
And then
great one to
once that's,
share.
yeah.
Share with heads of department. They can then just copy across or have a look across their planning. Particularly this time of year is perfect for this because people are sort of thinking about what's going on the rest of the year. Yeah, and this is that sort of baseline, isn't it?
Yeah, just and put a date, say by the end of next week, we want everybody to map what they're doing in terms of sustainability, because we know that the government is changing the curriculum in the future and it will become more green. So it's important to know what's going on in school.
So once you've then mapped across, that's a great starting point to think about what you can do next. But I guess you need inspiration, and that's what we've got with this our Key Stage 3 kind of Ministry of Eco-Education framework. We've taken the primary things that we've done and the experience we've learned, we've shifted it to the Key Stage 3, and the way that we've done that is by bringing together two subject areas to respond from their subject specialism and expertise to a shared inquiry question. And so these two subjects teach in parallel. And yeah, ultimately they work towards helping young people explore and understand that idea, but from multiple subject areas.
And it's not just it's science and geography. It's the English and it's the music, the DT, and so. You know, when you're looking at the Ministry of Eco Education curriculum, especially for Key Stage 3, choose a question in your which matches your subject. Go into it. You can teach it. The lessons can be run in parallel across departments, but it doesn't have to be. You could just say, "Well, I'm interested in this. I'll do mine," and that's fine. And you don't need to teach all of the series of 8 lessons or so. You can just pick and choose. We've picked out some of the best resources available in these topics, and they're really pertinent questions. I was just reading an NASUWT report on behaviour is getting worse, and one of the reasons behaviour is getting worse is because the curriculum isn't relevant. These questions make it relevant. They link through to the national curriculum, so it still brings in the learning that they need to do. But things like DT and one of the ones I did last year was DT and why should we insulate our homes? And it starts off with that Insulate Britain campaign. People were sitting in the road saying we need to insulate Britain. Why? And making then what is that important? And it links out to REBA, the Architects Association, and brings in some really fabulous little videos and learning materials, resources to help build understanding. That's just one
Okay.
example.
Yeah, and then to help you to understand that, we've got a video interview that we did with a few teachers who had helped develop these and explored kind of how that curriculum is constructed, and also looked at some of the standout ones. So, like the one you talked about, Meryl, there, we looked at some examples as well with Tamwen and with Sarah. So definitely go off and check our YouTube channel. There's a bonus step here as well. There is complete there's the opportunity to complete an online form that you can submit evidence so that your students in year 11 when they finish their GCSEs could get an additional certificate called the GCSE Climate Certificate. And what it does is it recognizes young people who've experienced climate and nature education throughout their schooling. And all it involves is submitting a few bits of planning that you already have just to show where climate and nature sits across the curriculum. So yeah, join the community of people who are also then getting additional certificates for their students. Step 3.
Step 3, one of my favourites, because it's all about networking. There are people in your school who will also be keen on environmental issues and to try and address those in school and in the wider picture. So find out who's interested in school, get them on board, talk to your SLT, but then extend your network. I was very much felt alone in front of the classroom, and now I feel like I've got a huge amount of support and people I can call on and work with. So just try and build that network. Now, one of the best ways you can do that is actually the NEU are starting to offer some great opportunities.
Yeah,
Oh,
so this year they've voted for through the re last year's annual general meeting. They had hosted. This year's going to be a year of climate action, and so there's a whole series of online events. And then also in March there's going to be a festival bringing people together physically. But also there is green rep training, and every school should have an NEU green rep. That comes partly from the health and safety perspective, so that there's a bit more clout behind that person. And partly that's a focus on things like temperatures in classrooms and I guess a kind of ability to both
it's
adapt
not
to.
just about the climate action plan that all schools are meant to have. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, loads of things. It could be subject areas as well, actually. That's one we've not mentioned, particularly from a secondary perspective. It might be through your subject association that you can connect with like-minded people interested in climate,
And,
and
and
through
we have
that
our
get
own
extra
WhatsApp.
support.
The Ministry of Eco Education has our own WhatsApp group as well. So although the UK SSN isn't really so active anymore, which is the UK School Sustainability Network, there are other organisations that are offering sort of like networking opportunities, and we do indeed.
Yeah,
So yeah,
mutual support, sharing best practice, all those sorts of things. So yeah, good luck with your journey.
indeed, have a fantastic 2025-26 academic year.